So, welcome to all of you. Welcome to the Geneva Press Club, to this debate, a very hot topic today. As people are ready for the vacations, we are talking about the way tourism, airline industry will develop in the future and how it looks like also for this summer. So, what is going on? We have today 4 panelists of very eminent and high-level panelists with us. Thank you for being here. I shortly present you. I start with Sophie Dubuis. Hello, welcome to you. You are the president of the Foundation of Geneva Tourism and Congress, French Fondation Genève Tourisme et des Congrès. And thank you for coming. Thank you to André Schneider. You're the General Director of the International Airport of Geneva. And then we go to Mrs. Zorica Urosevich. Thank you for coming. You're the Director of Institutional and Partnerships Relation at the World Tourism Organization. And finally, thanks to Raphael Schwarzmann. Mr. Schwarzmann, you're the Vice President for Europe at the International Air Transport Association, commonly known as IATA. So I think the news in these 8 days were pretty good. I mean, yesterday the Federal Council announced that in Switzerland, at least, and this is one of our problems, it's not in the world, but in Switzerland, things are looking better. We go back to something that looks more like usual business, I would say. But we will talk today about tourism, about international relations and communications and mobility. And therefore, sure, difficulties are still pretty strong. Perhaps before, and I also want to welcome all of those who follow us on our website, pressclub.ch, and on our YouTube channel. And so to start this session, I first would like to discuss with you shortly what is the state of in your sector, in your industry. How does it look like today after one year, even more, of sanitary measures and of confinement of COVID-19? And let's perhaps start on the more local level with Sophie Dubuis. How does it look like? I mean, you know very well the situation in the Geneva hotels, what's concerning all the congresses that most of them couldn't happen this last year. How does it look like? Is it really an industry that is in a very difficult condition, or what's your evaluation?
So at the moment, of course, we are in a dramatic situation. We can say that. As you maybe know, Geneva has 75% normally of events in business matters. So of course we are very impacted, but I would say all the cities around the world are impacted. We are this year at minus 65 to 70%. So we are in a very difficult situation. But what we notice for 1-2 months, and I have to admit also because of the Biden and Putin summit, we have a kind of good vibration, if I can call that like this. And we just launched yesterday a kind of resort, Geneva as a resort city, with new expectation on the local market. When I say local market, let's say it European market, and in a different way of thinking the tourism in Geneva, more as a big Club Med, or really a resort with a lot of activities.
Yeah, we will come to that just later on.
It gives a good motivation. I mean, a good point of view, but in terms of amount of overnights, it's really, really bad. And we know that we will not go back to the normal situation, even if we don't have any sight on the future before 2024 or 2025.
But can you go a little bit more in details about Are there some sectors in the tourism in Geneva that were more hit than other ones? Is the luxury hotels more hit,
Yes.
striking than other type of hotels? Can you give us a bit more details about that?
I would not say it's a sector. It's because we have a lot of luxurious hotel, of course, so they are impacted 100%, that's for sure, but not all at the same level because they have also weddings coming back, local weddings, for example. There are now other events they didn't have before. So I would not say it's a sector. It's really when you have minus 70% of overnight, everybody in the sector is impacted. And, you know, it's like 15,000 jobs. It's more than, it's around 3 billion economic impact. So I think we are in a dramatical situation. And what is very upsetting for us is that we do not know when the real problems, financial problems, will arrive. It means at the end of the year, we could just discover a lot of failures in companies, in hotels. Now we have, until now, only 4 hotels that really came out with failures. But we have like 70% of hotels that are open, the other are closed, and they are all now waiting and wait and see. So we are sure there are going to be more economical impacts.
And what about the Congress? Were there some congresses or not at all?
There are some congresses. We are quite, let's say, they are very few, with few people. Of course, yesterday, what was brought also from the Swiss Federal Council is good for having people meeting, even in, it could be in local circles. This is also good. But we know that it will change because now people are used to virtual things, to virtual meeting, even if we know also that it will not be the end of meetings in person. This we know. But our partners like MCI, like Palexpo, all the big actors in meetings are really trying to find out what will be the future and to adapt and be flexible and to go into this virtual move that we are doing. And we don't have the answers.
Now let's go to the airport with André Schneider. You're the Director General of the airport. Situation for sure at the airport was difficult this last year. But how would you evaluate this? What happened exactly?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, we have to say, even if we're starting to see a little bit light at the end of the tunnel, we're still in the midst of the crisis. Just to give you some figures, we lost last year 130 million of a normal result of more 80 million profit. And we will also lose money this year. And also we do not expect to reach something close to what we had before the crisis, before 2024, or perhaps even later. The challenge which we have is we are very much into fixed costs because we're managing infrastructures, which we cannot just have disappear. So we, despite the important efforts to reduce costs, we have been quite impacted. The other challenge which we have is clearly we see the startup which we're now living on 2 fronts. We are a point-to-point airport, so we have no hub operations. No one flies into Geneva to fly somewhere else. So, and we have around 90% of our passengers for European destinations and 10% for intercontinental destinations. And it's absolutely clear that the intercontinental traffic, with some exceptions, is not really picking up because the COVID situation is much different. What we can see now, since some weeks, is a certain easing up of conditions to travel in Europe, even if it's still very, it's absolutely not aligned, which causes quite some troubles. Countries are changing their rules over and over again.
You're going to go to that, yeah.
We do also see some emergencies of a 4th wave. If you look at Portugal, where actually the Delta strain is now actually picking up, so we're not totally assured that the kind of good reaction like in Switzerland will be everywhere. So we are currently we are still preoccupied because we're not getting any money of the state. We had to massively increase our debt to actually pay for this less lack of income. And what we do see is also, but what we see is now this easing up is helping, first of all the people who want to visit their friends and their families. We're seeing a pickup on tourism travel, where we see already a much slower movement is on business travel, where there's still also related to cost reduction schemes in companies, still not that much of the coming back on this one.
You said just that you didn't get any help from the state during all those period of time, so you had just to grow your debt, or how can you get out of this?
Again, we are owned by the Canton of Geneva, but we are expected to be full self-covering. So even when we do investments for infrastructures, we are doing that through raising debt. And it's clear we had over last year and this year to cover what we're losing in money and not generating in debt. And we still have to maintain some works on infrastructures, because we have quite aging infrastructures that we have to cover ourselves. So what we do is we raise debt on the market. We have raised last year 300 million, this year 180 million. And but we believe if things go more or less as they look at the moment, that we will reach the top of the negative side by the end of this year, that we will see next year a slight positive result, which will then allow us to reduce our level of debt, with the only caveat that we will take probably until 2030 to actually find again a level of debt compared to our EBITDA as we had before the crisis, because we need also cash flow to maintain our infrastructures, and so we cannot push everything back into the reduction of debt.
So Sophie Deby gave us this key figure of 70% less of night spent at the hotels. What's about the air traffic compared from 2020 compared to 2019? What's this figure?
We had last year a minus 68% of our, passengers compared to the year before, which means we were around 5.8 million passengers when we normally had 17.9. This year we will be somewhere around minus 60%, give or take. And because we also had a very bad start, you know, Geneva is a little bit exceptional, by the way, that we're actually a destination airport for winter holidays, as much in Switzerland as also in France. And with the majority of the guests coming from the UK, and for those who recall, around Christmas, there was actually interdiction of having flights even coming in from the UK. And so this has totally killed the winter season, especially also as the French have not opened their winter resorts until later this winter. So we have a very bad first half year, and we might recuperate a little bit in the second half year, but it will not be enough to get really very important annual figures.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Mrs. Urošević, can I ask you on your side, how does it look like internationally? Are there continents or countries where the situation is much better than others? What's your revelation today?
Thank you very much. Let me just restate what we are. The World Tourism Organization is a specialist agency of the United Nations, and we are an intergovernmental body of 157 states. So we are really mainly responsible for promoting international tourism as trade-in services for sustainable development. The point that I would like to make here is that our main role is to support governments. And I think in this moment of crisis, it is very essential that the dialogue is instilled, not only among government and governance in tourism, but as well in civil aviation and health. And to respond to the crisis, we launched in March 2020, Tourism Recovery Committee that is actually including all these actors. As for results, tourism fell minus 74% compared to 2019 levels in 2020. And in the first months of 21, we have data until May globally. We are seeing a drop of 83%. This is exactly comforting what colleagues have just mentioned earlier, Ms. Dupuy and Mr. Schneider, saying that we are now seeing some light over the tunnel, and we are looking at an overall growth in the year 2021 between 60 to 75, minus 60 to minus 75% against 2019 levels. So this is really a massive hit, and a massive hit on jobs as well, because we estimate 100 to 120 million of lost jobs directly in tourism, and about 30% in the entire value chain and ecosystem, meaning tourism supply chains and different industries. So this is
a historic situation. I mean, never anything like that happened, I guess, in the world.
No, because the crisis of 2000, the economic crisis of 2009, we saw a rebound in a year. This crisis is completely different. It has really touched all the world, and it has touched all the sectors and the industries related to tourism. Actually, it has brought, I can say on the good side, on the positive, it has brought a lot of understanding and visibility of the sector as an important sector for growth. So this is really essential. Just to mention that in the crisis committee, of course, Switzerland is a very active member of the committee. We have produced incredible number of intelligence tools that for destinations, and of course for businesses at large. So I really encourage you to consult those tools, because you can compare where Switzerland stands against other countries. Of course, we don't have the detail on cities. That is unfortunate.
Can you give us a very short summary of this situation? If you compare, I don't know, continents, one with each other, has the situation been really the same everywhere? Or
yes, no. I mean, I can say the key marker for results, I can say the results which are varying between 10 to 15%, I can say all over the globe, if we consider region, is the containment of the virus and the travel restrictions. These are really, really the pillars of any solution or any way to unlock travel. So in Asia, for example, there has been a much more severe containment and travel restrictions. It is the continent, it's quite broad, it's Asia and South Pacific. There has been a lot of restrictions on the continent when it comes to states. So states have taken very drastic decisions. The virus has been quite well contained in many countries, and especially in tourism destinations such as Vietnam, Thailand, and Pacific Islands. But of course, while containing the virus, because these countries do not have the capacity to supply and to sustain a health crisis, there has been no international travel either. So no tourists coming. And island states, for example, some of them are having 70% of the GDP based on tourism, like fisheries and tourism are the mainstay. So I can say that Europe has been smarter in moving, even though there is a total lack of coordination. It's improving now with some tools such as the EU passport, to which I think Switzerland has as well an equivalent. I have seen as well, and I can say that Switzerland has been quite creative in making the most of it, considering the situation. I think, yeah, so that's something that I need to say.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I turn myself to Raphael Schwarzmann. Hello. So you're the Vice President for Europe at the IATA. And let's put it straight. How many air companies were bankrupt in the last year? Do you know this figure?
Actually, Pierre, thank you first to be invited here in the Geneva Press Club. It's good to be with the colleagues here and discuss this very, let's say, interesting, challenging, and dramatic, I would say, situation, right? Because it is dramatic. Now, in terms of the number of airlines going bankrupt, I don't have the number first. I don't think we have seen as many as probably people would have expected with the magnitude of the crisis. And I think Sophie referred to earlier that we still have to see the financial risk and failures coming forward, because we are still under exceptional terms today, right? I mean, you're getting exceptional support or grants and different things. So it's a very unusual market, right? And I would say that well, I don't have that number. I would also say, linked to you mentioned the situation today, as my colleagues already said, it's unprecedented. We have never seen, if you compare this to 9/11 or the previous SARS epidemic and 2008 financial crisis, those crises, they took about 6 to 18 months to recuperate, right, for the industry. And also, it impacted between 5 to 20% in terms of revenues and things like that. This crisis has initially dropped by 90%, right, in the air transport sector. And we foresee maybe getting back to 2019 levels by 2024. So a bit more than 5 years. So we are really in uncharted territory here. And obviously, there are many implications for countries, for regions. I mean, I think Europe is going to be, it is heavily impacted. It's going to be very impacted for this. It is already, but I'm saying longer term, because we are seeing not necessarily great numbers. For example, one of the major items, and I think Andre mentioned the connectivity of Geneva and what is the focus of Geneva. But if you look around Europe, I mean, Europe was before this one of the best connected continents in the world, right? It depended on it actually in its great economic success, if you would, tourism and other sectors as well, technology, manufacturing, etc. Now, if you look at that, actually connectivity, we have done a study where we compare connectivity, we do this regularly, connectivity around the world. Europe connectivity has dropped during the crisis 93%, right? If you compare that to Asia Pacific, for example, connectivity has dropped 76%, and North America 73%. Now, clearly here, one of the big elements is that we have acted in a fragmented way. And when I say that, obviously it has an impact because the other regions do have, let's say, the reason why the other regions haven't dropped that much is also because they have a very, let's say, they maintain a domestic market, right? I mean, so that domestic market has helped, reestablish quicker and connect better those regions. So Europe has, basically the European domestic market was the Schengen area, right? Which is totally fragmented and is not operational flawlessly, right? And the measures are obviously restrictive today. So we are facing a very challenging crisis. I mean, losses. I think my colleagues already referred to the level of losses. And I have to say, not to get into details, but we are expecting as an industry, I think about $47.7 billion in losses as an industry-wide. But we have to bear in mind, we are expecting that 39% of those losses will be in Europe. So that means there is something that we need to do here. We are actually going to be the hardest hit region, at least in air transport, which I mean, it will also translate into tourism, I would say, because tourism, Europe is one of the leading regions in tourism in the world, right?
Number one.
So, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, actually on the Travel and Tourism Competitive Index 2019, you see 19 out of 30 countries in the world, right, are European countries, by the way, Switzerland being number 10. So it's a very relevant situation. So I think we are in a situation where we do need coordination. We need to break this. We need to go and stop this fragmentation, and we need to have a coordinated effort, which we still don't see, even though we see, as my colleagues already said, some good signs in terms of the summer, right?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so that's the point of what is going to happen. Let's stay for this summer. I mean, We are today really on the brink of the holidays, starting in a week or so. Some are already started. What is really missing today? That's the market and the air industry and the hotel industry can restart. Perhaps André Schneider, can you tell us how you manage the system of COVID certificate? Switzerland has one that should be implemented by the end of this next week. Things should be clear. The people who are vaccinated should have their COVID certificate. What do you know about this, and how can you handle that? I mean, what's the role of your airport in this kind of check of COVID sensitivity?
I mean, the role in this whole thing, first of all, we have to assure that when a passenger goes through the airport, he is not exposed in any way to infection by COVID. And Geneva Airport is certified for that one already since last year. So that's our first obligation. The second obligation is more with the airlines, because most countries now impose entry restrictions, which can go all the way to fines. I mean, there are countries which emit fines between 3,000 to 5,000 euros for every passenger brought into a country which doesn't fulfill the criteria. And the criteria can be quite varied. In Europe now, they are getting a little bit less varied, but essentially either the country recognizes that you are vaccinated, which today, given that we have no generalized certificate, and we all hope naturally that in Switzerland we will have one by the end of this week or next week.
But what is value if it's not recognized by Europe?
Huh?
What is the value of a Swiss certificate if it's not recognized by Europe?
First of all, what was promised by the Federal Council was actually that we are compatible with the European certificate system. What is it? It's nothing today. We are already controlling everything of that. So this certificate is nothing else than a facilitation of an action. Today, you ask your passenger to come either with a paper which says he had a PCR test within the last 72, or now more and more countries are asking for 48 hours. Or some countries will say you can also come with an antigen test, which is the quick test, within the last 48 hours. There are even now European countries which allow you to come with the auto testing, which is just a little vial which you carry with you. And at the end, you can also come for some countries with the proof that you're vaccinated, plus 2 or 4 weeks after the last vaccination. Or actually, you can come to some countries now with the proof that you have been ill and recovered. This is each time validated by some kind of document. And I have to say, even in Geneva, if you go to the university hospital, you don't get the same paper than when you go to some others who do it. So they don't look totally the same. So the challenge really for the airlines and actually the ground handlers who have to check that is actually to figure out, does this document say what I expect it to say? Knowing to which country he goes, because it might need different documents. And secondly, is it a fraud or not? Because, you know, when you look at some of those documents, I have to admit, even myself with limited capacity, I can Photoshop them probably in any way I wish. So frankly, you can debate that. So the advantage of a COVID certificate is that actually there is a third party. Typically, in our case, it would be the Swiss state or organizations mandated by the Swiss state to actually give you a unique proof that this person has either one of the things requested in a way which actually this third party has validated that this is a valid test, vaccination, or whatever. So it will not change fundamentally the rules. It will just simplify the way how we check it. And clearly, when we see that today the check-in time is increased by a factor 3, just for this kind of problems, because then there are some countries where you need to have a special hotel reservation in a state-owned hotel. I mean, there are lots of other things which go with, so it's not always very easy. So that would be very important. I think it gives also a little bit of simplification to the passengers, because unfortunately, not every passenger is very well prepared. So we have people who come to the registration desk And then you have to tell them, I need this paper. Oh, wait, I have to open my suitcase. You need this paper. So they spend themselves another 20 minutes to just figure all the papers out. So this will simplify a little bit, but it doesn't change anything to the ruling. What we're looking forward to is actually that, at least in Europe, there is a general admission that if you're vaccinated plus 2 or 4 weeks to be defined, you are actually no more needing to have a PCR or whatever else test. Because this seems to be a little bit an overkill. Now, I'm not a doctor, but at least this is one. Secondly, that we clarify the validities of tests. Not that we had, you know, until 4 weeks ago, all tests had to be within 72 hours. Now we have an increasing number of countries who are reducing it to 48 hours. So we had lots of passengers coming with a test which was valid for them, but was no more valid. Now, when you need a PCR, you can't do it within 1 hour. So you send them home. You lost your reservation and so on. You imagine. So we need a little bit more coherence, some simplification. Actually, Switzerland yesterday announced that they will not impose any quarantines to any other countries, which there are currently, I think, only 2, which actually are seen as hosts of very important presence of the Delta variant. So we need a little bit of clarity because we are still too much confronted with very emotional decisions, which in my eyes, even as a non-doctor, seem to be really emotional, not really fact-based. And to actually smoothen this process, and that's not just only for airlines, it's for any travel, it's for any, and frankly, we as an airport would like also to request that all types of transport are treated the same way. I can tell you, you can today go to France and you're just not controlled. I mean, no one will ever ask you anything.
Train, for example, you're right. Yes, so listen, what you're describing is something like hell. I mean, it looks really very, very complicated.
It is. Nevertheless, we have lots of people. We had last week almost 35% of passengers compared to last year, while we were for a long time at 10%. So I have to say, I can only congratulate to all those passengers.
These are heroes of the modern
times. The pressure of people who want to leave. They want to go somewhere now, either visit friends and family or go to vacations. And I think government should take that in account and simplify that a little bit, which would then also simplify for people coming to Switzerland using Swiss tourism installations, because today we heard complaints about Swiss hotels, Swiss destinations, that they're losing now their passengers or the people to foreign countries.
These descriptions and what you're telling us is very, very interesting, and it's somewhat frightening also. So I would like to turn myself to Mr. Schwarzmann now, because it's very clear that the harmonization, coordination is absolutely needed, that the things are more fluid than today. So I guess that IATA was talking about a IATA fly certificate, COVID certificate. Is that correct? And what can you really do at the level of your organization?
Yeah, very, very, very important. I think Andre described somehow the mess that every individual has to go through these days to make travel happen. I mean, and this is something that clearly we already, all of us, I think, spoke about today, about the need for harmonization, the need of common standards, the need of, and one important element here, the need of digitalization, because as Andre described, the requirements today to go through an airport, it's quite complex, not the same for other modes of transport, obviously. And if we are to be reestablishing connectivity again and be able to facilitate this, we need to digitalize, right? So one initiative that the EU has taken is the Digital Green Certificate. That is a very good initiative in terms of a common standard, but still doesn't address the application of the differences, different applications between different countries. And that's why you still have passengers not understanding or countries not ready with the technology as well. Huh? So I'll give you a simple example. We don't even have a common standard on minors. I mean, so what are we going to do with minors? I have heard stories about families not knowing what to do. My minor, you know, is it 12 years old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old? What is it that needs a test, needs a vaccine, etc.? So very, very complicated situation in that sense. Testing as well. I mean, Andre referred to, I mean, there has been already some progress in some countries. accepting antigen tests, Spain being one of them. Some of the majors are already, accepting it. So I think, again, harmonization is key. Now, in terms of, I think the IATA initiative of the Digital Green Certificate, or the ITP, sorry, the IATA Travel Pass, it came as a need, as I said before, of making use of digitalization so people could actually move. This application has the ability to first be your digital ID, because you put there your passport, right? You digitally identify with your biometric passport. It has to be a biometric passport. Then you have the ability to be able to assess, because it uses the thematic tool, which is I guess today the best standard that we have, which is an IATA one, to assess what are the requirements in your destination once you enter your flight, right? So you enter your flight number, your itinerary, let's say, and it will tell you what do you need. Then it will tell you where can you get either the certificate or the
but
test.
Excuse me, are you working on this system, on a system like that?
Yeah. No, the working is already being tested by multiple airlines in multiple countries in multiple destinations. So
and this is under the control of IATA,
This is an open application, by the way. IATA, this can be embedded into airline applications. So it's, and also very importantly, the application is not holding any of the passenger information, which is also a key element here, because we have different European regulation is very restricted on privacy of data. So this information remains with the passenger in their mobile app, right? So all of this is being tested by now. And many airlines are, all the major airlines in Europe basically are testing. I think the latest one announced this week was Air France, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So you do have this being tested in multiple routes. It is one of the alternatives. Now, having said that, remember, for Europe, there is already a digital certificate, which is not the same as the travel pass, which, by the way, I think will be highly relevant in terms, especially if you talked earlier about the intercontinental routes, right? The need to reestablish connectivity and the complexity of the regulation is really difficult to make sense. So I think the first party for Europe to get a harmonized approach to digital certificate, which is at this stage, there is an agreement on the digital certificate. The application, as Andre was describing, is still not clear at all. I would have to say, even though I'm based in Spain, by the way, that probably one of the best, let's say, country applications is actually in Spain. Not because I'm sitting here, by the way, because it simplifies in one app, right? Either the vaccine, the testing, and the QR code for the passenger locator form. So it's a very straightforward one. I know some other countries are looking into it, but not every country is ready to do that.
I understand this process will, I guess, take a lot of time. Until it's really harmonized, and so the summer will still be complicated, probably difficult. Now, I would like to hear from Sophie Dubuis. What are, in your view, what is the main obstacles to getting strength again in the Geneva tourism industry? What are the hurdles today for the hotels, for the industry? And are the measures that were decided yesterday by the Federal Council, are they good, sufficient? What do you think of them?
My God, this is a big question, Pierre. Of course, each improvement is good to take. First of all, let's be positive. But it's much more complicated than that, because we have all these measures. But I think what was just explained through this complicated situation or defragmentation, general defragmentation, is a really huge problem for everybody. That's the most of it, of course. We are trying to find clients coming not through airlines, because we know how complicated it is. But
can you orient that? Can you give an orientation that trying to get people coming by train?
Sure. Because we try to, of course, because what we try to do is more local, regional communication. And because why? Also because this is the most difficult part of it is to know who's going to close. We, for example, last year we made huge things in, as André explained, in England, and suddenly England stopped everything. I think we lost millions also of advertising we did before, and we couldn't use because the country were closed. So we, for example, we don't go in China or anywhere else to do some promotion because they are very far away, and we don't have any idea on how the countries will react. So we have all these authority political problems, but we try not to focus on that. So we don't have the solution. What we do is coming back to ourselves inside the destination, being closer to the partners, talking to them, asking how we can help, asking what they need from us, telling us what we need from them. So we try to really like come back to a responsible and local solution. We don't have the same problems than the airport, for example, because we are now, both of us, in different worlds. Let's say we hope they find solution, but we will not interact or let's say go to their business because we know they do the best. And we just have to have a common voice for the authority and for the political world. And I think what just Raphael say, it's the most important, is that this fragmentation is a catastrophe. And what we feel now also, and for this we have.
And you are at the end of the chain. I mean,
we are at the end.
People can't come in, you lose the business.
More important, the problem is also the fears. People are afraid. Of course, they want to travel, okay, but at the end of the day, they are afraid of this uncertain situation. And for that, that's good to be in Switzerland, I have to admit, because we know that we still have this kind of reputation that it's safe and it stays. And what happened last week was also good, because if two of these great Putin and Biden came in Switzerland, this is also a good message for us.
This will make a difference. Just one word about this. The Putin-Biden summit will make a difference.
It's just empowering and reinforce our reputation. It's all about reputation when people are afraid. So of course this is a chance, but it doesn't give the best solution. We will not be full this summer. But you know, I think we don't have the solution. We have to be agile, to count on the partner. We have to count on, I see here, I know how, for example, Zorica, they work in the World Tourism Organization, all these huge international organization and IATA, we have to count on them and just let them work. We cannot interfere in the job. So we have to work locally and be good with our next partners, first of all.
Okay, thank you very much. So Zorica Urbaszewicz, Sophie Duby is counting on you. Yeah. But what can you do really now? You have to find the solutions for each of the countries, actually. And what is your power to do this?
That's not what I say, that she has to find a solution. Just let me...
You leave it to them.
It's a translation.
So, I'm asking.
C'est la traduction française.
Exactement, exactement. Je vous mets face à cette responsabilité de trouver une solution pour tous les hôteliers, tous les pays. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire?
I think that much has been said, and I think what our colleague Raphael from IATA explained on the IATA pass, I would really try to reinforce that message. We have been involved and monitoring with IATA since the very beginning of the creation of that pass. And you know, IATA has created electronic boarding. It is the same system which is developing this app for compiled, aggregated, and harmonized procedures for being able to travel with various type of documents. So I think definitely for me, one of the solutions is really to engage in that. That is obvious. Now, that said, when it comes to travel, I just want to explain that tourism is going to be transformed from now on. Our lifestyles have changed. We have an incredible capacity to adapt. Look at us. We were totally confined and super happy just to be able to go and have a drink on a terrace when it is open. So the trends, consumers' trends are changing. The new tourist wants really to have a place which is safe, and Sophie just mentioned it. And I think building confidence and communicating well is becoming key, despite what you are creating as a new offer. And I think the resort concept for Geneva is just super attractive and very novel. And I think this is essential. But you have first to use really digital means to communicate about that, because today everybody is connected. So social media is essential. It has to go beyond the borders. It has to go beyond when you arrive. That is one.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if I listen to you and what was said before, it seems obvious that the best way for tourism for this summer, at least, and for a while, will be to make domestic tourism. And this looks like the immediate future of tourism. Isn't that true? I mean, because there is safety in your own land, or you feel it as safety.
Totally. But I totally agree with you. But regional movement of people in a closed region, I can say between, for example, Schengen and Switzerland, and within Schengen, is still happening, and it is going to happen. And that is one thing. The consumer confidence goes as well through an important lens. And while aviation is very well organized and structured through ICAO work, in which IATA and ACI are involved, and we are as well part of that, drafting very clear protocols for airlines, for airports, for workers, and so on. We have done the same with ISO, and we have created guidelines for safety in tourism industry, restaurant, cafe, hotel activities, train, whatever, like 16 different ones. So this is available as well to have as a benchmark, because people like to be, need to be reassured. Now, the most prominent thing that we have done in the last months is that we have created with our legal department and about 90 governments over the world, we have created a new code for the protection of tourists, meaning that when you purchase a travel, that you are bound to one regulation which enables you and protects you, which is compatible among states at the global level. Yesterday afternoon, we had the last meeting on the first part for this new framework to happen. And I think it is extremely important that confidence is returning. Now, let me just give you an example to illustrate what I'm saying. Countries that have done tremendously well last summer, for example, Greece. Yeah. Greece has been extremely smart in communicating all steps, protocols, and guarantee for safety at a very early stage, opening up the skies and opening up their establishment. They have, I can say, hijacked much of coastal or I can say sea maritime tourism in Europe last year. So this is really demonstrating that people want to be reassured, and people want to have the capacity to feel safe. So yes, domestic, but as well regional. And I think that in that sense, it is really a key message to understand on the aspect of recovering.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. So let's go a little bit in the longer term and talk about the changes that are real deep changes of way tourism will evolve, and also air traffic will evolve. And I'm turning perhaps again to Mr. André Schneider, the General Director of the Geneva International Airport. André Schneider, I mean, you just talked before about the investments you are still doing in the airport. The plan was a heavy plan. I mean, for large investments, for an airport that has grown spectacularly in the last years. Now it was stabilizing in 2019, I guess. But does those investments still make sense in the today's world of air traffic and tourism?
Before I answer this question, just a little remark to what was said before.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been involved in multiple initiatives to actually invite governments to go with a more aligned way. And we should all not forget, we can invent all the tools of this world. If they're not mainly adopted by governments in a coordinated way, we can be sitting here with the 20th system and it will nothing happen. So I must admit, this one is a big learning. I mean, we can have the best ideas, it won't help. Now to your question, I would like to just first, you have to understand that actually air travel is not just about tourism. It's we have essentially three groups of people who take a plane. The first group, which is a very important group, is actually the group which we call visit friends and family. Because just simply, you know, take Geneva, we have huge diasporas which actually have continued to travel throughout the deepest parts of the crisis, from Portugal, from Kosovo, from several regions. And these are people who have come here to work and they want to go home, see their friends, their families. And if we don't want to totally give up on what we are, which is a globalized world, we will have this traffic. And that's clearly those people will expect that we do everything to protect them so they are not more exposed to viruses or whatever other hazards, but nevertheless they will stay. The second most important group is clearly the people who go for vacation travels. And just to say, I mean, despite that everyone would think that with all those complexities, no one would travel, I must say not intercontinental, but regional travel, we have a pressure which is just unbelievable. So
what does it mean? Can you explain that?
It is the level of reservations is today we have less flights clearly because companies, but they are better filled than they were even in 2019. So, and we have made inquiries. People are very little concerned about traveling by plane or going through airports. They are slightly more concerned about what's happening in the countries of destination. But when you talk to the people, their first message is, I want to get somewhere else. So I think we clearly this will be dampened by the complexity of the situation and so on. So, and the third group is business travel. Now, this will take longer to recover, even if there are also very varied opinions. I mean, we hear some airlines who say that will not be back before 2023. I hear other airlines and other analysis which say it will start to kick back this year and next year. And we do see already some coming back. So if I put that together, yes, we will probably have to rethink some of that, and we will change behavior as we did all the time. You know, it's not, we don't need to have a crisis to change. We change continuously. So, and in our plans on the future development, we take into account, we're not planning for an airport which can handle 3 times more passengers. But nevertheless, our main infrastructures have now between 50 and 60 years. So we're just simply in necessity to replace them. To avoid that, we have to close those buildings because they are not architecturally sound anymore. And so we will continue. And lastly, you have to know Geneva Airport actually brings to the region over 4 billion Swiss francs a year in a normal year of added value, and actually occupies over 33,000 people. So when you put that together, and not to talk about the impact it delivers to the International Geneva. Now, we were not organizing the meeting of Putin and Biden, but without an airport, it would not have happened in Geneva either. So this is, you know, there are things which will have to be adapted, which will change, but fundamental needs will not go away. And frankly, I have not seen yet anyone to say, I prefer to visit my family and friends via Zoom, nor have I seen someone saying, oh, it's okay, I will sit in front of the camera where I see, I don't know, Mediterranean beach, and that's going to be good enough for me. So
that would be a little bit easier.
And even when you talk to business people about Zoom meetings, you can see clearly Zoom fatigue. And you can also see that people are saying there are meetings which, yes, we don't actually need to travel. And some of them didn't even happen before. But there are many meetings where, frankly, even business people are reaching the conclusion that actually not doing them is causing more troubles than doing them. So in all, yes, we were already on a maturity. We have been leveling off, and that was clearly in our plans even before the crisis. And we will take a little bit the hit until we get out of this crisis, but the things will not totally go away.
Just one short word. You were talking about international Geneva. The situation you describe is a threat for international Geneva. I mean, if your airport, the airlines can't ensure that Geneva is an easy, reachable city, the international part of it could be in danger. Is that correct?
I think the Putin-Biden meeting is the proof that also in this world, you will not solve the big challenges by just meeting via Zoom and whatever. I mean, I recall an important UN conference which was done via digital means. And at the end, what happened? Every heads of state recorded in advance his speech. He wouldn't answer any questions. So, you know, at the end, it is intrinsically difficult to actually do, and there are even scientific studies, to do real negotiations via Zoom, Skype, or God knows what else it is, or Teams. And so, yes, we will probably a little bit less prone to go for anything, to meet someone, even if we could do that via an email to take the trip. But there is still plenty of stuff you need, and that cannot just go away. And frankly, we see it already now. People want to have again physical contact. We are physical beings.
Yeah, sure. So, Mr. Schwarzmann, I guess that you agree with Mr. Schneider on this, but at the same time, there is a lot of pressure on the airlines, not only because of COVID, but also because of climate change, because of too much mobility, of too low prices that people say are offered by the airlines for too easy traveling in a way, which seems ironical. What kind of reforms do you think the airlines must go through in the next years so that this sector can consolidate and start again? Or do you think you should go back as usual, as before, exactly as before?
Well, first of all, I think we all tend to agree, not just here, but I think this is what we're discussing, that we have to take obviously a bit of a proactive approach to what has this crisis has taught us, right? So I think we don't need to go back to. I mean, I don't think things are going to go back to the 2019. But it will, let's say we talk about the new normal. Now, there are different definitions of it, but I think, I mean, first of all, I mean, it's the value that has brought to the world, the connectivity that we have, the value that has brought to the world, that the ability for people to be able to travel for the different purposes that many of us have stated already, either for visiting family and friends, tourism, but also businesses and also education, right? I mean, this is a very important element that has helped actually the world, right? So if we talk about all these benefits, then I think it's not necessarily the need to talk about we have to travel less, but actually what do we need to do to make it more efficient or more sustainable, right? I mean, in terms of safety and security, I think we have already proven that this is a safe and secure means of transport, right? I mean, as I think Andre mentioned, I mean, you can travel by train and you have nothing, you know, and the restrictions are not there, right? So again, here, I would say the things that we need to look at is looking at this not in restrictive way, but actually in an innovative way, right? And one of the things that we need to reestablish, obviously, is this harmonization, okay? Obviously, air travel will not work if it's fragmented. The success of it has been the standardization. The success of it has been common approach across the globe in the measures, etc.
But tell me, do you expect less airlines, less destinations for each airport, or how do you see the future in 2-3 years?
Well, I don't think, no, we don't expect well, less airlines. It's a question of you know, what's going to happen after, and if there will be some consolidation. Okay, we can keep. I mean, there will be some probably, But I think the challenges that we have is it's probably linked to, well, one is the building back confidence and maybe some of the measures that we spoke about, right? How do we build back confidence into the system? How do we use digitalization? Use digitalization now. We have an opportunity. We have tested all these tools. We now have a challenge to digitalize to be able to make it safe and secure for people to travel and easy, right? Easy, because today, with all the requirements, I think we also have to embrace some of the challenges that we haven't been willing to embrace at the EU level, for example, single European sky, right? I mean, we've been saying that, we talk about it, the technology is there, has been there for a while, and we go ahead and not implement it, right? We keep delaying that. So those are things that we need to embrace quickly and bravely, I would say, today. The other thing is we talk about sustainability and we look at the airlines. We don't manufacture airplanes and we don't produce oil, right? I mean, so so the manufacture of airplanes, okay, or engines, and also we insist sustainable aviation fuels and transition. And then on the innovation, right, we have the example of Switzerland, where you already have imposed one of the highest taxes on CO2 in the world, instead of, right, what it should be, which is incentivize, invest into the future. What is it that is being invested into the technology that will allow us to, right, be sustainable, right? Again, these are the things that should be in the focus, investments in new technology, right? We're talking about electric aircraft. Well, electric aircrafts are, if most people that are here know very well, I mean, we're not going to see an electric aircraft that can replace the type of airliners that we fly today, especially long hauls with the current technology. So obviously, and then we talk about hydrogen, but this is not coming very soon. So again, I think we need to look into implementing, adopting new technologies, investing in it, and these things versus being restricted to something that brings a lot of value to the world. And I think Soritza mentioned the level of employment that it brings to the world, when we're also talking about the risk of employment being employees, I mean, the loss of jobs because of digitalization. So this travel and tourism is actually a fantastic high-level intensive enterprise. So I think we are in a positive industry, but we need to, I guess, be forward-looking and not backward-looking, I would say.
Yeah, this is a strong plaidoyer for sure for going on traveling. Before going to Zorica Wozevic, André Schneider wanted to add something shortly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the engagement of the industry to decarbonization and being really a proactive actor in this domain is very important. And I just want to recall Swiss aviation industry with Swiss, EasyJet, the Business Aviation Association, and the 3 national airports has actually made the commitment before the vote on our CO2 law that we will be decarbonized by 2050. And we have actually documented that with a roadmap, which was actually collaboratively developed with the federal government, amongst them also the environmental agency and the civil aviation agency. So I think there are ways that we can really continue to offer the freedom to travel whilst we are doing really a huge contribution to protecting the environment.
Okay, thank you. Now, Zorica Wozevic, what's your take on sustainable tourism? What does it mean actually, and what should be taken as measures that tourism means less pollution?
Thank you. I think that the crisis has shown, and I go back to what I said, change of lifestyles. What we were prepared yesterday to accept as a tourist, we maybe are different today. And I think that the crisis has done 2 things. One is it has brought digitalization, which Rafael was underlining, as a great opportunity for markets, not only like European markets, but far in Africa, you have a small guest house, you are on the market, you are on the job. Now, on the sustainability part, I think that because there are many incentives for the ones that have survived in the sector, I think that investment in greening operations is really essential. Sustainable consumption and production and the guidelines that we are working towards within the One Planet program, it's maybe you can just check on our website, but I'm happy to explain. It is really changing the mode of production, changing the mode of doing operations. For example, we are currently having a huge increase in plastics. We are gone back 10 years ago on all efforts which everybody has made in plastic, for example. So we need to reconsider. Circularity model in business models is essential. Like from one element that is an output, create another one. This is in the tourism operation in the industry. Food waste is a huge one that needs to be considered. I mean, this is all green and this is all reducing emissions. It's not the traditional only bed sheets and water.
And it's not greenwashing. This is
exactly,
not greenwashing.
Exactly. So we have really tools which enable you to assess where you stand and where you want to go and accompany you. So we are working really hard on that. And so, the other part of sustainability is the biodiversity related to climate. Because there is one thing is that we are consuming natural resources for tourism outputs and production, and then we are as well consuming the natural environment in which we are that we need to preserve. So I think there is kind of two key directions in which we need to engage and invest. Of course, knowledge is key, and capacity facilitating investment is the second for greening operations.
Sophie Duby, how do you react to that, and what in your view is the key factor to make tourism more sustainable?
It's good that we're talking about this, because yesterday Swiss Tourism just launched the Swisstainability, the sustainable kind of label. I mean, for Switzerland, it's not something new, but I think what is important is just what we said. It's not about a green wave or I don't know what. It's really not only about green things like ecology and all that. It's not without what we have today. It's really a question, and for that I have to say Swiss tourism is doing a great job and also took all the partners with it. We know Switzerland, it's untouched natures and all that, that's very important. But for us, we have a joke. We always say that sustainability in tourism is not going au rocher de nez dans une yourte et manger des plantes. This is not about that. And I think this is what we have to put today again in the center. It's how can we go on in movement, as just André said, not only for tourism, but for all the move of the people we had now for years and years and decades. How can we go on with that, but just always focus on how can we do that in sustainable way? How can we, for us, the tourism industry, offer sustainable experiences and also help our partners to think about what is sustainable? It's more a kind of new philosophy and way of seeing the thing, but this is not about stop travel and movement. This has nothing to do with that. It's about responsibility, first of all.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very complex topic, as we can see, with a lot of factors. And I thank you, all of you, for this very interesting discussion. That is a key discussion that involving hundreds of thousands of jobs everywhere. It's the core of the life of many, many people is to move to it was this centuries or last centuries good news was that everybody can go everywhere, and now we are facing a total different environment about that. So and as you said, we don't have all the solutions now, but a lot of questions and some answers too. And I hope at least that for starting this summer, we will find a few answers that people can start taking some air from other countries again, because a lot of them need it. And I perhaps would like just to ask you one short last question to all of you. What is your next trip that you plan? To what country? Or if you have no planned trip, where would you like to go? If I may ask you that, I don't know. Let's start with Sophie Duby, perhaps.
I did not travel for 18 months, I think now, and this year I will stay in Switzerland.
Okay. Sonisa Wozevic?
Actually, every summer I enjoy the Geneva Lake, but I will be going to Seychelles soon.
Ah, that's great. Mr. Schwarzman?
Well, I've been lucky to have traveled throughout the pandemic a few times, and I will continue to travel. My aim is to travel to the Americas if we are able to very soon.
Okay. And Mr. Schneider, you just walk out of the door and take a plane. It's easy for you. Huh?
I will astonish you. I will actually do a tour in the Swiss Alps with my new motorcycle.
Oh, great. So
Good, André, very
that's
good.
a good idea
The
too.
motorcycle is the destination, actually.
So a lot of local tourism, if I understand, for the moment, and this reflects a little bit what many Swiss will do probably also this summer. I thank you really very much for this discussion, and I hope to see you again at the Geneva Press Club, the Club Suisse de la Presse. You're always welcome online, and from now on, we are starting again our events in face-to-face. So thank you for being here, and welcome next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.